What is tempered glazing and how do you know when you have to install it? That's what we're going to chat about in this video. We're going to go over what tempered glazing is, what it looks like, why it's required, and then we'll dive into like big windows and what situations you need to temper one of those big windows. Now, tempered glazing is also known as safety glazing or safety glass. All the terms are kind of interchangeable depending on where you're at. So if you hear one of those, you'll kind of know what it is that we're talking about. And then I'm excited to be able to put together this in a series. So I've got, this is part 1 of 4. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get the updates on these next few videos that are coming out and you are aware of when safety glazing is required. It is one of the #1 correction calls that I make as an inspector out in the field is people who forget to put in tempered glazing when it's required. And even contractors forget about it. It's one of those things that, and we don't catch it all the time in framing, or if you're just swapping windows out of your existing house and we show up at final, we catch it and we're like, we gotta swap this out. Actually, today I was doing a framing inspection and next to a door, they were a little too close to the door and those windows needed to be tempered. One of them wasn't. So I let the contractor know. I was able to catch it up front before they trimmed it, but they had already sighted it. So either they got to pull the window out or replace the glass. Either way, it is no fun. And it's something that I'm hoping that I can get this information out there to you DIYers, you homeowners, and kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit so that you don't end up having to work through those situations yourself. So what is tempered glazing? Tempered glazing is like a car window, right? You break a car window, breaks into little itty bitty pieces. If you were to fall through it, you'd probably get cut up, but you wouldn't get like impaired, right? You wouldn't have these knife sharp pieces that, might really hurt you. And so that's the purpose of it, right? It's a safety glazing and it's meant to be installed in locations where someone could fall, slip, roll, whatever that is, a door slams, blows the window out, that it doesn't hurt somebody. So that's the purpose of it. And what about labeling? So how do you know that it's tempered glazing? So tempered glazing is always going to be etched or marked with like a permanent mark. So it can't be like a little marker, or it has to be etched in there so that anytime somebody can see that it is in fact tempered and that it has been installed in the proper location. I've run into instances where people forget, it gets called, and then they want to go find some aftermarket film or something that gets placed on either side of it, kind of turns it into maybe like a laminated glass. I'm not saying you can't do that, but if you got a permit for this and your inspector is going to look at it, make sure that they're okay with it before you go put it in. We've had to turn people away who've put it in and because it's not permanently marked. Maybe the stuff they bought doesn't meet the requirement that our city has or that the code book lists. And so then they're left now spending money on that and having to go fix the glass anyways. So make sure you check with your building department if you forget and you go down a road like that. So let's look at some pictures and I'll kind of show you what the labeling looks like, maybe what tempered glass looks like, and we'll look at some code and then I'll show you a few pictures. Okay, so here's a few pictures to look through and we'll start with this sticker right here. So this sticker would, most windows come with stickers on them when you get them brand new. You buy them from wherever it is you're buying them from. And that sticker should also tell you that it's tempered. And like this one, it does. I don't know how well you can read it. It is right here. It says tempered. So right off the bat, if I'm looking at the sticker, I can say, okay, it's tempered, but now where's its permanent label? It has to have a permanent label. And those permanent labels would look something like these two pictures. Okay, so it's actually etched in. It says safeguard solid tempered. It's a safety glass. Over here, I think I took this picture in a door, like a window that's inside a door, and here it just says tempered. Meets that requirement. It just tells us as an inspector and anybody else out there that yes, that glazing is safety glazing and it is tempered. You can get into some of the other information on here, which just tells you that it's tested and it meets the requirement. It's gone through all the requirements to then be allowed to meet the code. And then here, I think most people have probably seen a broken car window, but here would be kind of an idea of what tempered glazing would look like when it breaks, right? And a lot of times, if it's just barely broke, it won't necessarily shatter. It'll just spider web and it'll sit there until somebody pushes it over or whatever. So it really does provide some good safety. So make sure when you order your windows that they are labeled and that you install them in the right location. I had contractors who maybe they designed a house that they're building and they have multiple windows of the same size, but only one of them has to be tempered, and they go and put it in the wrong spot. And they're like, well, we actually have to have it over here, and so they have to go take it out, switch it around. Just creates work. So if you end up in that situation, just make sure you get the right one in the right spot, and that so you don't have to go back and do it again. Now let's look at the code book a little bit. And let's dive into when are tempered windows required in big windows. Like in what situations would you need to order a tempered window? This is the code right here that references big windows. This is directly out of the IRC. This is the International Residential Code. And here's kind of the requirements when we're talking about like a big bay window or some type of multiple sets of big windows. All four of these requirements have to be met in order to require tempered glazing. So let's go through them, and then that way if you hit all four of those criteria, you'll know that you need to order some tempered glazing. So here it says glazing in an individual fixed or operable panel that meets all of the following conditions shall be considered to be a hazardous location. So hazardous location, that's why we need tempered glazing, right? Is we're protecting against hazardous locations. And it's telling us that all four of these criteria in a fixed or operable window. So even if it's a movable window, but it meets all four of these criteria, you want to make sure that it's tempered. So number one is that the area has, the individual pane has to be larger than 9 square feet. So if you have a big bay window, but the bottom part of it is like an operable piece and it's under 9 square feet, probably don't have to temper it. The bottom edge of the glazing is less than 18 inches above the floor. So if we've met criteria 1, we have a piece of glass that's over 9 square feet and it's within 18 inches of the floor. We've now met criteria number 2. Criteria number 3 would be if the top edge is above or more than 36 inches above the floor. So you have to be within 18 and 36 or higher and over 9 square feet. And then the last one is that if one or more walking surfaces are within 36 inches measured horizontally and in a straight line of the glazing. So this one can get a little tricky, and because what is a walking surface, right? Outside, pretty straightforward, right? You got a sidewalk or somewhere that's defined and you're within 36 inches measured to that glazing, that glass, it's got to be tempered. You're inside and you got a big living room and you got this big bay window, but you put a couch there. You say, well, it's not a walking surface. It's like, well, that furniture per se is movable. It's not fixed. And so as an inspector, I would make that call because you may not live there forever. And whoever moves in there, we would want it to be a safe environment for them. So don't necessarily take a piece of furniture as a way to get out of the walking surface requirement when it comes to tempered glazing. Now, if you got a cabinet there, like a refrigerator, not that you have a window behind a refrigerator, but if you have cabinets or some type of fixed furniture, well, then you're probably okay. But don't get confused by the walking surface side of things if you have furniture that's in the way. Essentially, if you've met those first 3 criteria and it's in a house, you're probably going to need to temper that glazing. There are a couple exceptions. If it's decorative glazing, so maybe it's like stained glass or something like that, it's specifically special made, then you don't have to temper it. And then the other one, which I don't know how often you'd run into this, especially on like a big bay window, but if you have a handrail that runs across that between 34 and 38 inches, just like handrail requirements are, and it could protect you or somebody from falling into that glass or falling on top of it if it breaks, then it doesn't have to be tempered. I don't know a lot of instances where I've seen this. Maybe outside if you have a sidewalk and you have a handrail that runs across there, or if there's a huge bay window next to some stairs and you got a handrail that goes down, that might meet that requirement as well. But we chat about that in one of the other videos when we get into tempered glazing and safety glazing around stairwells. So make sure to check out that video. We'll get into that a little more intense. And then here, this third exception doesn't really pertain to most residences. It talks about, glass is 25 feet or more above grade, so on and so forth. So, but focus on these items. If you meet all 4 of them, if you only meet 3 of them, you don't have to do it. But if you meet 4 of them, all of them, then you need to temper that glazing. So just make sure you take care of yourself before you order your glass or your windows. So let's look at a couple pictures. So in this particular picture right here, we've got a piece of glazing that's 9 square feet or more. So that's number 1. It's within 18 inches of the ground. Number 2, it's over 36 inches above the ground. So that's number 3. And it's within 36 inches of a sidewalk, which is a walking surface. That particular window would need to be tempered. So this particular one you would want to order a tempered window. So if we hop over to this picture, we have 3 separate panes of glass, right? So all 3 of them are less than 9 square feet. So immediately you don't have to temper them because they're less than 9 square feet. In addition to that, these upper ones are probably over 18 inches above grade, or they're not over 36 inches. One of those other criteria is probably not gonna be met. This bottom one, if it was over 9 square feet, it might need to be tempered, but it would only be this bottom pane. Now here, again, we have something that's over 9 square feet. It's over 36 inches tall, and it's also within 18 inches of the ground. So this particular one you would want to temper. And so just make sure when you're ordering them that you figure out sizes and that you make sure you get the right thing ordered. So this is Ben with Building Code Tips. I hope video number 1 of a 4 video series on tempered glazing has kind of got you informed a little bit on tempered glazing and when it's required, and kind of giving you kind of a kickstart on big windows in case you have one out there, you want to get the right ones ordered. And like I said, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, so that you can see these next few as they come out, and make sure that you're aware of tempered glazing in areas such as stairwells, bathrooms, and next to doors. So, have a good day, and we'll see you in the next video.